I was on my way home from work driving my car on the highway when I noticed something very strange on the side of the highway. There was a baby inside a little box, just like the one we see in movies left on doorsteps. I pulled over to see that I wasn't imagining things. I approached the box and I was shocked to see that it was a real baby crying. I held the baby and tried to calm him down. Who the hell leaves their baby like that? What is wrong with people these days? And just as I was about to call the police, I noticed that two men wearing masks were stealing my car. Where did they come from? How did they get here so fast? They were on a motorcycle. One of them got off and got inside my car, and the other kept on driving the motorcycle. I watched him in utter panic as he used the keys that I had left in the car to run away with it. I ran after my car with the baby in my arms, screaming, "Hey, hey, both of you, stop!" But they didn't. There was no one around to ask to help me. We were on a highway. Damn it! The car disappeared before my eyes in seconds, and I was pissed. That car was the most expensive thing I owned. It was a brand new Mercedes that I just got a month ago. It also had my bag and my wallet. How stupid was I to leave the keys inside it? The baby started crying more, and I was getting nervous. I had to think fast. I went back to the box where I found the baby. I put him in it and called the police, reporting what had happened. They told me to wait. Thankfully, there was a bag that had the baby's things. I made him a bottle the way I remember from the time I used to babysit. He calmed down when he started to eat, but I couldn't. I wish someone would come to take him so I can go look for my car. An hour passed. The baby was sleeping in my arms, but no one showed up. No one came to take the baby. The police hadn't arrived yet, and it was getting too hot. I couldn't stand still, so I just started waving for cars, hoping one would stop. I needed a ride to take me back to the city. 10 minutes later, a woman stopped to pick me up. I didn't want to complicate things, so I lied. I told her that my car broke down, and I needed a lift for me and my baby. "Oh, you poor thing! Get on. I'll take you where you need to go," she said. So I took the baby's bag and got on with her. She was so good to me to the point she drove me back to my house. What should I do now? What should I do with this baby? I called the police again. They came to my house and I explained the situation again. But this time they wanted to take the baby. I knew they were going to put him in foster care. I felt sorry for the baby. He didn't deserve to be left alone like this and abandoned in the middle of nowhere. He had done nothing wrong. So I asked if I could take care of him until they unravel the whole case. The police officer looked hesitant at first, but then he said, "That would be fine, but let us report the authorities first." And that's how I started taking care of him. I didn't know what his real name was, so I called him Lucas. And let me tell you, I've never pictured myself being a mom, but Lucas changed my mind. He was the cutest boy ever. I fell in love with him. Seeing him sleeping in my arms like an angel melted my heart, and seeing the little expressions he made with his face was just priceless. One day we were having a party at the office, and I took him with me. Everyone was happy to meet him, but Trey, my boss, held him and refused to let him go. He kept him in his arms all the time, and when it was time for me to leave, he kissed Lucas and looked very sad to say goodbye to him. I asked Sally, a coworker of mine, "Did you see that?" She responded, "Yeah, that's weird." But I didn't comment on it. I just took Lucas and left. And from that point on, Trey started acting more strangely. He started visiting me on a regular basis to see Lucas. He came on the weekend and brought toys for him. Sometimes he would visit me at night after we were off from work. And I can't say I liked it. It was getting too awkward. I mean, I wasn't comfortable with my boss being at my house for that amount of time. I knew he was a nice guy, but still, I needed my space. So one evening I decided to tell him. He was playing with Lucas, so I plucked up my courage and said, "I really appreciate your visits, Trey, and I can see that you fell in love with Lucas just like I did, but I think this is too much for me." He was embarrassed and quiet for a few moments, but then he said, "I am sorry for the inconvenience I caused you." Then he stood up to leave. I felt so horrible for doing that to him, but I had no other choice. The man was practically living with us. After he left, I heard a knock on my door. It was the police. The police officer told me that they couldn't find my car. They searched the area, but they couldn't trace it. As for Lucas, they will be putting him in foster care. I was devastated to hear the news. I didn't even care about the car anymore. I didn't want to lose Lucas. I couldn't imagine myself giving him away, so I said, I'll apply to adopt the baby. The police officer said, then you'll probably get custody because you saved his life. I was delighted to hear that. I get to keep Lucas for life. I went to work spreading the good news. Everyone congratulated me for making that decision. However, Trey wasn't feeling it. He looked irritated and upset, like I stole something from him. He didn't speak to me the whole day, and when I came to ask him about certain things, he ignored me completely. That was weird, but I didn't pay much attention to it. He probably was still pissed because I banned him from seeing Lucas anymore. But that was not it. When I headed to the adoption agency the next day to see if my application to adopt Lucas was approved, the manager told me that another couple was fighting to get Lucas. They were Trey and his wife Janet. What? How dare they? I found Lucas first, and I'll be the one taking him home with me. As soon as I got out of the office, I called him. Hey, listen, I don't care if you are my boss. You are not going to adopt Lucas. He's my son. I hung up feeling furious. Then I went home determined to fight for Lucas. I was not going to give up easily. And just as I was about to enter the house, I felt someone dragging me into a car. I tried to scream for help, but I couldn't because I soon passed out. I woke up later with my hands tied and my eyes blindfolded. It was quiet and a bit chilly. Anyone here? I shouted loudly. Oh, you finally woke up. A scary voice came from the dark. I shouted again, Who are you? What do you want? And the voice replied, I'm just a messenger. I'm here to warn you to give up that baby. Oh my God! Was I being threatened? What the hell is wrong with Trey? Then I felt someone behind me. He untied me and said, Give up the adoption. He left me and went running out of the room. I felt pain where my hands were tied. I rubbed them off and went out. I was in an area I've never been to before. I walked to the main road and I got a taxi and went home feeling terrified that something might have happened to Lucas. But thankfully, he was safe just like I left him with the babysitter. I held him in my arms. I cried silently. I was so scared there and I thought I was going to die. Trey could hurt me if I don't give up my application. He is a very powerful man. What should I do, Lucas? Lucas giggled. He thought I was playing with him. What if I tell the police? Maybe he'll end up kidnapping me. No. I shook my head denying that thought. Telling the police won't do me any good. I skipped work for 2 days, but then I decided to go. I needed to face Trey. If I can't stand up for myself, Trey would keep bugging me. I went to his office with the angriest look I had. I opened the door without knocking and yelled at his face. You think you can threaten me like that? Who do you think you are? If you don't stop this, I'm going to report you to the authorities, you crazy man. Surprisingly, Trey stared at me for a few seconds and then said with the most broken tone I've heard in my entire life, 20 years. I yelled, What? He said it again. For 20 years, my wife and I have been trying to have a baby. We've been through it all. He continued explaining that they tried everything, including the expensive procedures of IVF, and when they lost all hope, they tried to adopt. However, because they were old, they were always the last on the list. The minute he saw Lucas, he fell in love with him, and when he overheard my conversation with the police, he realized that he had a chance. So he went for it. I'm so sorry for what happened yesterday. I told the man to threaten you, not to kidnap you. And I understand if you want to report to the police. I was just desperate. He was feeling guilty. Somehow, I felt sorry for him, but I didn't show it. I just said, I'm not going to give up Lucas. That's my final answer. Then I left his office. That day, Trey dropped his application, and I felt like everything went back into place again. However, a week later, while I was shopping in the mall, I saw Janet, Trey's wife. She was looking at the baby's clothes at the display window. She was sad, almost heartbroken, and for no reason at all. I felt guilty. I couldn't stop thinking about her all night. The next day, it was my turn to go sign the final papers that would guarantee that Lucas would be mine forever. But when the judge asked me, Are you 100% sure that you want to adopt this baby? I found myself saying, No, I don't think so. Everyone was shocked. The judge's face turned red, thinking that I was playing a joke. But I felt it in my gut that I was doing the right thing. Lucas was not supposed to be mine. I can be a mother in the future, but now it was right for them to get Lucas. Trey and Janet got Lucas. They were crying when they held him for the first time. Trey came to me and hugged me, saying, "You have no idea what this means to us. You can come to see him anytime you want." I choked when I said, "I just hope you take good care of him. He was my first son, you know." Trey smiled and said, "That's for sure." Trey wanted to reward me in his special way. He hired a private detective to look for my car. I woke up one morning to find it parked in my driveway. I'll be taking care of this baby then.
Hey guys, I'm Nora, and what I'm about to share with you is a secret that brought a lot of embarrassment to my family. Well, it's hard to keep it a secret anymore because my mom's twisted lie didn't hold for too long. Although, it did cause damage that could never be fixed. It taught me a huge lesson. A lie may work in the present, but it has no future. You see, I used to have a normal life. I grew up in a normal family with the most loving dad, whom I consider being a mentor and a role model in life. My mother, however, was never that loving. I could never put all the pieces together and understand why she was never around, or why she never told me, "I love you," not even once. But that was the norm for me, and I never gave it much attention, until one day, I found out that her odd behavior had a crazy explanation. She had been keeping a really dark, 15-year-old secret that eventually came out and changed everything I know. It pains me to say this, but as I grew older, my mom became even more distant. She didn't approve of anything I did. And believe me, I was really trying to be a good daughter. My mother only cared about herself. She loved to go out with her friends, shop for the most expensive things, or party all night long. She never cooked or cleaned, never helped me with my homework or kissed me goodnight. Also, her relationship with Dad was always tense and cold. I haven't seen them hug or smile at each other in ages. And now I realize that's not normal. They barely talk to each other anymore, which makes dinner evenings really awkward and uncomfortable. Mom never worked a day in her life, meaning that the comfortable lifestyle that she so very much enjoyed was because of Dad. Yes, he worked, and still works, a lot, and didn't really have the time to give Mom the attention she so desperately wanted all the time. Soon enough, their marriage hit rock bottom. Their entire relationship had fallen apart because when Dad was home, all he wanted to do was sleep, or be alone and read a book. Unfortunately, Mom had demands and expectations. She used to scream at Dad. "Why didn't you take the trash out? Can't you see the house is a mess? Why can't you make more money?" Poor Dad. He never said anything to her until one day when he had enough and just left, but not before whispering in my ear, "In the end, everything will be all right, Nora." I blamed him for leaving me alone with Mom, and I remember crying for nearly a month. I truly thought I had lost him for good. As the days and weeks went by, Mom got crazier and crazier. "I don't want to see you, Nora. Get out of the room." And she kept repeating those phrases for 2 whole months. One day, out of the blue, Mom finally got out of her room. I couldn't believe my eyes, but she was actually smiling. I asked her if everything was okay because she seemed better. Without hesitation, she replied, "I'm perfect, Nora. I figured out a way to bring Dad back." I thought to myself, "Oh wow, this is amazing. We were going to be a family again. Yay!" That day, Mom had the brightest smile on her face, and I couldn't figure out why until she told me. "I'm pregnant, Nora." And she showed me the test was positive. OMG, I thought to myself. I've always wanted a baby brother or sister, and at that moment, I honestly believed Dad would finally come back when he hears the news. Mom and I decided to break to Dad the news together. She told me to call him and ask him to come by the house to talk. He agreed to stop by, and after 30 minutes of "How are you?" and "Are you doing okay?" Mom asked me to tell Dad the big news. With tears in my eyes and filled with excitement, I screamed, "We're gonna have a baby!" Because I was so happy at that moment, I didn't realize that he didn't even flinch. I thought, he's in shock, he's gonna be fine, and I continued my victory dance. 1 week later, Dad moved back to the house, And for the first time in my life, things were getting better in the family. Mom stopped being cold and demanding, and she actually began showing some respect towards Dad. She came home after a doctor's appointment to tell us the pregnancy was evolving perfectly and that we were going to have a baby girl. A sister? Holy moly, finally! 5 months later, I could see Mom's belly growing beautifully. We decided to name the baby Sophia and organize a baby shower with all of our closest friends. Everyone had the best time at the party, except Dad, who didn't seem like himself. Maybe he still can't believe that he's going to be a father again, I assumed. Right after the party, I went upstairs to look for my phone, but I remembered it was in the living room. So I came back and caught Mom having the most secretive conversation with her BFF. I can't believe it worked. They actually believe I'm pregnant, my mom said. Apparently, the pregnancy test was rigged. She actually drew another line with a red pencil to make me believe it was a real test. And I fell for it. I instantly froze, couldn't move my arms or legs, and just stood there hoping to wake up from a really bad nightmare. OMG, Mom, why would you do that? I felt angry and frustrated and just couldn't believe she would do such a terrifying thing. Fake a pregnancy just to get back with Dad. I wanted so badly to tell him the truth, but I couldn't. At the end of the day, I was just his 14-year-old daughter. What if he didn't believe me? I kept my mouth shut for another 2 months and watched how my mother's belly was getting bigger and bigger. Unbelievable, right? I had to find a way to expose her. I decided it was time to take matters into my own hands. I sneaked into her room the next morning while she was in the shower and placed my phone above the TV, right between some books so that she couldn't see it. I hit the record video button and quickly hid under the bed as I didn't have time to get out. Can you believe there were like 10 pillows in different sizes under the bed? All of them were Mom's baby at different stages of her pregnancy. She got out of the shower, got dressed, and stretched her hand right under the bed to get one of the pillows. She almost caught me, but thank God she didn't reach far enough to sense I was under the bed. That day was probably the weirdest of my entire life because I had to face her. I had to look her in the eyes and pretend I still believe she's pregnant. As she was getting dressed, she started shouting for me. "Where are you, Nora?" And I was right there, under the bed, when all of a sudden the phone that was recording her started beeping. Oh no! Fortunately, she thought the sound was coming from another room, and she left to check it out. Right on time for me to grab it, stop the recording, turn it off, and pretend I just entered the room. "I'm right here, Mom." At that very instant, as she was looking straight into my eyes, I could feel she knew I had uncovered her lie, but she didn't say anything and just left, slamming the door behind her. That evening, before Mom returned home from yet another fake appointment, I decided to show the recording to my dad. Mom's secret was killing me, and I had to tell him the truth. I approached him and said, "You have to press play, Dad, and please, don't hate me." He watched the video until the end, and believe it or not, he started laughing afterwards. He said, "Oh, Nora, I knew about Mom's lie from the very beginning." I was like, "What? You know? And you didn't say anything?" It turned out that Dad only agreed to get back with Mom to be close to me again. Also, he had planned to ask Mom for a divorce for quite some time, but he was aware that he couldn't get full custody without proving she wasn't capable of raising a teenage girl. So he waited patiently to see how her master plan unfolded. Now, he had all the evidence in the world to demonstrate to a lawyer that Mom had serious psychiatric problems. I have the best and smartest dad in the world. The next day, his lawyer came by the house to break down the news to my mother. She couldn't believe the papers in front of her were divorce papers. The lawyer brought real evidence that proved Dad was unable to have kids anymore, and we showed her the video too. Mom burst into tears. Her plan failed big time. She admitted to the lie, started crying and begging for forgiveness. Sadly, she didn't get any. I have to congratulate my dad for having the patience to live with us for nearly 5 months, knowing about Mom's lie all along. He's a really tough guy, I give him that. But soon enough, I found out that my mom didn't have it easy too. In fact, I started to understand why she was such a troubled person. On the court day, Mom decided it was time to share with us the secret she had been keeping for 15 years. A shocking secret that made me lose trust in my own mother. As the trial was happening, My mom stood up in court and claimed with anger that my father cannot have custody of me because the fact is that he is not even my father. Everyone who was present at court looked shocked and they started talking. My mother ignored the noise and she kept going. Yes, that's right. We got married because he thought I was pregnant with his child. I had a big secret that was eating me from the inside, and I was forced to live with it for 15 years. She then looked at me and said, "That's right, Nora. Go take a DNA test and you'll see." I was speechless. Could that be actually true? I looked at my dad and he was furious. "You are a liar. First you fake your pregnancy and now this? No test in the world can deny that I'm not Nora's dad, you monster," he screamed. And then I decided that I didn't even want to know, because the person standing there is my dad. "That's right," I said with a loud voice. "I don't believe you, and I don't care what you say. For all I know, this person cares about me the most in this world, and he is my dad." Everyone looked surprised by my response, especially my mother, who later lost the case and currently has no right to even visit me. Twisted, right? I know I'm only 14, and I shouldn't judge. But what Mom did was not okay. What kind of mother treats a daughter like she did? It's been a year since I moved in with my dad, and in all honesty, I've never been happier. Right now, I can't forgive my mother for what she did. At least, not yet. Maybe I don't have the maturity to do it. Or maybe she doesn't deserve my forgiveness.